for the foreseeable future. Patty Culhane, Al Jazeera, Washington.
President Obama has lashed out at Republican senators for rejecting gun control legislation. The bill would have extended background checks on gun buyers. Victims of gun violence were on hand to witness the defeat of the bill. Tom Ackerman explains.
Those campaigning for tighter gun laws always knew they'd face an uphill battle in Congress, even pushing through one of the least controversial measures, expanding background checks on people who want to buy guns. It got a majority, but still failed because Republicans forced what's known as a supermajority, 60 votes.
The amendment is not agreed to.
From the gallery, the mother of one gun atrocity victim yelled out her dismay.
The order in the Senate.
At the White House, a frustrated President Obama blamed the defeat in part on the efforts of pro-gun groups to misrepresent the legislation. Willful lies, he called it.
And unfortunately, this pattern of spreading untruths about this legislation served a purpose, because those lies upset an intense minority of gun owners, and that in turn intimidated a lot of senators.
Joining Obama were parents of children killed in last December's school massacre in the state of Connecticut. They had spearheaded the national campaign to tighten gun control and hoped that overwhelming popular support for universal background checks would have swung enough votes for passage. They pledged to fight on.
We are here now. We will always be here because we have no other choice. We are not going away. And every day, as more people are killed in this country because of gun violence, our determination grows stronger.
But defeat of the Senate measure effectively blunts the drive to enact significant gun control at the national level, although some states are looking at or have passed tighter restrictions. Since the Connecticut tragedy, at least 3,400 more people have been killed by guns in America. Tom Ackerman, Al Jazeera, Washington.
And to look at the politics of this vote, Jason Johnson joins me. He is a former congressional campaign manager and a professor of political science at Hiram College. He joins me from Atlanta. Jason, good to talk to you again. What's the simple explanation? I think we can understand why many Republicans voted against this, but what's the simple explanation for why Democrats voted against the president, not in large numbers, but among them some prominent Democrats? I'm thinking Max Baucus from Montana.
Right. The operative word is cowardice, and that's really all it amounts to. It's absolute cowardice. What's important for the audience to understand is this wasn't an up or down vote on whether or not background checks would happen. This was a vote to decide if the Senate would even begin to argue as to whether there would be background checks. So this stymies even a discussion of a vote, and it's nothing but cowardice on the part of Barack Obama's party, cowardice on the part of the Republican Party, and a real example of the absolute inefficiency and gridlock of the American upper house.
So if the death of children and teachers in Newtown and the shooting down of one of their own, we're talking about a member of Congress, if that doesn't get passage of something nearly everyone in America thinks is a good idea that isn't particularly controversial, why should anyone believe something meaningful can be done on gun control at all?
No one should believe that anything meaningful is going to be done. This is what's very interesting. You have members of Congress who not only saw one of their own members shot several years ago, but this isn't even about NRA money. Much of it on the Republican side is just about preventing Barack Obama from having a domestic victory. And on the Democratic side, you've got some blue dog and conservative Democrats who've never really been in lockstep with the President of the United States. So it's amazing to me that a party that has been able to flip so easily on something like gay marriage over the last 2 weeks can't actually vote for policies that most of America agrees with that are life and death, like guns.
What does this tell you about the bully pulpit, the so-called presidential bully pulpit, that the president wasn't able to get this over the line so that we could have the larger debate on gun control?
I think it's an example of the absolute weakness of the presidency, and not just Barack Obama. I think what's important to remember is that the president's only real power is the power to persuade. And the reality is, even in the constituencies in red states, even the constituencies of many of these Republicans favor this policy. But Barack Obama's inability to convince Republicans who have been convinced that he is everything from illegitimately the president to not an American citizen, they have generally been resistant to any of his policy plans. So there is no real optimism, and this does not spell a very good path forward for immigration reform or an end to the sequester mess that's currently choking the United States.
So Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid voted no on this, presumably so that he could bring it back later. Do you think this proposal will have life later?
No, because I think what's going to happen now is once we have a suspect, once we have someone arrested with the Boston murders, with the Boston massacre, the entire U.S. Congress is going to be caught up in other issues. And I really do think, unfortunately, that gun control will be put on the back burner. Terrorism will take a front seat, and then probably sometime later on in the summer, there will be serious discussions about immigration. This was Barack Obama's one chance. It was the Senate's one chance to demonstrate that they listen to the American public and not their internal ego battles. And unfortunately, egos won out and the American people lost.
Wow, amazing. Jason Johnson. Jason, as always, good to talk to you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.